Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is. So today you are entering the last video for before I come back. I know you guys are super excited to see me tomorrow. It's okay, I get it. But yes, it's going to be coordinate geometry. So yes, graphs are coming back. You will have to create your own for the test. And this is probably one of the most important parts of the test. So please make sure you focus. It's honestly not that hard. So just work with me. So you are basically going to be given the options to tell them, what kind of quadrilateral is on the grid. And they're going to give you coordinates, and then you'll have to check it out and then tell them. So either parallelogram, rectangle, rhombus, or square. Or they'll give you 3 points and you finish it off. So let's see how it works for this. So there's two things you have to check in order to see what kind of quadrilateral it is. So the first thing that you're going to check is the length of the diagonal. Can't spell right now. Then you're going to check the slope of the diagonals. And that's it. Once you check the length of the diagonals and the slopes, you will automatically be able to tell if it's a parallelogram, rectangle, rhombus, or square. Alright, so if it's a parallelogram, your diagonals are not congruent and they bisect each other. And then another thing you're going to be checking is if the slopes are perpendicular. For a parallelogram, the slope is not perpendicular. Okay? So you see they bisect each other. Alright? But they're not congruent. For a rectangle, diagonals are congruent, so one tick mark all around, and they bisect each other, but slope not perpendicular again. For a rhombus, the diagonals are not congruent. Okay, so kind of like a parallelogram. They bisect each other like normal, but the slope is perpendicular. Alright, and then last but not least, a square is, remember, a special case that has kind of everything. So diagonals are congruent, so they must be the same. And they bisect each other, and the slope is going to be perpendicular. Alright, so two things you're checking again are the lengths of the diagonals, if they're congruent or not, and then slopes, if they're perpendicular or not. So let's go ahead and give it a try. So, given the vertices, determine the quadrilateral's most specific classification. So go ahead and plot. Please remember X, Y. Some of you guys are still struggling on plotting, so please be careful. Remember, you have to walk to an elevator before you can go up and down. So we got 9, negative 4. A, and label your points, or else you will lose it. B is 8, negative 2. C is going to be 2, negative 5. And D is 3, negative 7. Alright, so go ahead and connect. So I'm just going to use my ID because I'm at home and I do not have a ruler. Okay, so like I said, the things we are going to check are the diagonals. So here, our diagonals are DB. I'm going to make them dotted. So DB and CA. Okay, so the first thing I want to check is if they are congruent. Okay, now remember, how do we solve for a diagonal line on a coordinate grid? Yes, you remember, it is the Pythagorean theorem. So for D to B, I'm just going to go over and up. So here we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then going up, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 again. So 5 squared plus 5 squared equals C squared. Go ahead and solve this out. We got 25 plus 25 equals C squared. 50 equals C squared. How do you get rid of that squared? You're going to square root it and you get C. Now, since at the end of the day all I care is if they are congruent, so the same, I do not need to get the decimal. So I'm just going to leave it like that. Alright, for CA, I'm going to go this way. And I've got up 1. And then over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 1 squared plus 7 squared equals C squared. So 1 plus 49 equals c squared. 1 plus 49 is 50 equals c squared. So again, the square root of 50 equals c. So clearly, they are congruent. Alright. So then we have to go ahead and check the slope. So remember, slope is just rise over run. So the slope for DB, let me write that down. We're continuing here. DB and CA. So the slope here for DB, we're going to rise 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 over 5. Remember, simplify when you can. So that just becomes 1 over 1. So remember, you will have to pay attention to the negatives because perpendicular slopes are going to be flip and switch. Okay? So opposite sign and then a flipped fraction. So that's all we got for DB. For CA, we're going to rise only 1 and go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 1 over 7. Can't simplify that. So clearly, this is not perpendicular. So if we go back to the top, the only one that is congruent and perpendicular, or not perpendicular, I'm sorry, is going to be the rectangle. So this is a rectangle. And then you guys are like, oh, well, Miss G, I can totally tell that's a rectangle by just looking at it. I don't care. You got to do the work because some of these are going to look up like a parallelogram and it ends up being a rhombus or a rhombus that looks like a tilted square. So you have to do the work. Don't do the work, you don't get the credit, you'll get it wrong. Alright? Okay. Go ahead and flip and go ahead and plot this next one. So Q is -2, -7. Then we're going to have R at 1, -5. Please, again, make sure you're putting your points in the correct spots. And we have S at 4, -7. And T at 1, -9. So if you look at this one closely, honestly, it could be a parallelogram. It could be a rhombus. It could be a square sideways. So we're about to figure it out. Remember, we're checking the diagonals here. So the diagonals for us here are going to be QS and RT. So make that little chart on the side. Alright, so we will check the length first. So we got from QS. Don't really have to do much for the length here. You just got to count. So from Q to S is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And from R to T it's just up 1, 2, 3, 4. Congruent? Definitely not. Alright. What about the slope? From Q to S we rise nothing. We run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 0 divided by any number is always going to be 0. For RT, we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4 and run nothing. Any number divided by 0 is going to be undefined. Alright, so then you guys here are going to be like, oh, not perpendicular. Not true. Anytime you have 0 and undefined, this is actually considered perpendicular. So I could put a right angle there. So we got to go back to the chat in the front and check which one's congruent and perpendicular. So perpendicular, and then not congruent. So congruent, this is going to be, I'm sorry, not congruent. So it's going to be a rhombus. Alright, so that's it for that one. This last one's going to be a little different, but anytime you have to figure out if it is what kind of quadrilateral it is, all you have to do, check the diagonals. Are they congruent? Do the Pythagorean theorem. Check the slope, rise over run. Very simple, very easy. Okay. Alright, in this one, it says with points J, K, L, find M. So this is going to be a little bit different. So let's go ahead and plot this in. So 5, -1 for J. K is 8, 2. And L is 11, 10, so quite a jump. Alright, so right now it seems super awkward. It doesn't look like any kind of shape. But with a problem like this, they have to tell you what kind of shape it is. It tells us that it is a parallelogram. And we know that opposite sides in a parallelogram are parallel and congruent. Okay? So they're going to have the same slope. So the very easy way to do this is letters matter and the way that they go. So if it says J, K, L, M, it has to be in order. We go from J to K to L. So the M has to be somewhere over here in order to make a parallelogram. Because if I go this way, that's definitely not a parallelogram. So M is going to be somewhere over here. Well, I know that JK is going to be the same and parallel to LM. So if I can figure out how to get from J to K, or K to J, it's going to be the exact same way. So from K, I just go to the left, 1, 2, 3, down, 1, 2, 3. So if I do that with L, left, 1, 2, 3, down, 1, 2, 3, that right there gives us the M. Perfect. Alright. And you're done. So your M is going to be at 8, 7. Alright. So that is it for today. You have a practice and homework. So in practice, you have 2 of them where you're going to classify. Make sure you check the diagonals if they're congruent and if the slopes are perpendicular. And then you'll have some questions on here. Please do not just guess. Okay, do not Christmas tree it. Literally try. Alright, because I'm going to ask you. Homework is on the back. So if you finish practice in the class, just go ahead and do your homework. If not, finish the homework today or tonight, and then I will collect it tomorrow. Alright, see you guys tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.